Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a question a lot of renters are asking themselves right now. With all these huge new apartment buildings popping up everywhere, why does the rental market suddenly feel, well, different? You might be noticing more options out there, maybe a little less competition than you've seen in years. Let's break down what's really happening.
So you've probably seen it, right? Cranes all over the skyline, shiny new buildings finally opening their doors, but at the same time, maybe you're also seeing a lot more for rent signs than you're used to. It almost feels like the market is flooded with options. So what's really behind this sudden shift?
To really get what's going on, you have to understand that any rental market kind of has one of two feels to it. For what feels like forever, a lot of us have been stuck in a landlord's market. You know the drill. Tons of competition for every decent place, not much to choose from, and rents just keep climbing. But what we're seeing now, it's a shift toward a renter's market. And that means you've got more options, you can take a second to breathe before signing a lease, and prices are finally starting to stabilize or even soften a bit.
And let's be clear, this isn't just a feeling. It's a real change in the market dynamics. It's literally flipping the power balance from the landlord back to you, the renter. So, the big question is, what's causing it? The simple answer is this. The market is being hit by what we call a massive supply wave. Think of it as a huge, sudden surge in the number of available rental homes all hitting the market around the same time. And this flood of new options, it's the single biggest factor changing the game for renters right now.
Now, what's really interesting is that this supply wave is coming from two very different places. The first source is the one we all see, that big boom in large, brand new apartment communities. But the second source is a lot more hidden, and frankly, it's adding a surprising amount of new rentals to the mix.
Let me introduce you to the accidental landlord. These are homeowners who, for whatever reason, wanted to sell their house or their condo, but found it was too difficult or just didn't make financial sense in the current housing market. So instead of letting that property sit empty, they stick a for rent sign in the yard. Every single one of these homes adds another option to the rental pool, quietly juicing the local supply. This chart here gives you a sense of the scale of what we're talking about. I mean, look, for the past couple of years, the number of new rental units was pretty steady. But this current wave, which is a combination of those big new apartment buildings and all those accidental landlord properties, has created this absolutely dramatic spike in available homes.
Okay, now we get to the part that trips a lot of people up. You see a brand new luxury tower opening up and the rents are just way out of your budget. So you think, how on earth could that possibly help me? It's a totally fair question, but what most renters don't realize is that, believe it or not, it absolutely does.
The answer lies in something called the ripple effect. And it's a really powerful market force that indirectly connects those super expensive, high-end apartments to the older, more affordable places you might actually be looking at.
Here's how this chain reaction actually plays out. Let's walk through it. Imagine a shiny new luxury building opens. A renter who can afford it decides to upgrade. They move out of their perfectly nice, maybe 10-year-old apartment, right? Well, that leaves an empty unit behind them. Now, the landlord of that building has to work a little harder to fill it, so maybe they don't hike the rent this year. Or, hey, maybe they even offer a month free. That makes their apartment more attractive to someone in an even older, more affordable building, and the chain just keeps going. This ripple, it cascades all the way down the market, opening up apartments and taking the pressure off prices at every single level.
And this is really the key takeaway here. More homes for anyone ultimately means more choices for everyone. Even if the brand new homes are high-end, they start that chain reaction of vacancies that ends up benefiting the entire market. A healthy supply of housing is what gives renters like you more options and, frankly, more leverage.
So what does this all boil down to for you, in the real world? It means that for the first time in a long while, the negotiating power is shifting. You, the renter, are in the driver's seat.
This shift really changes things for both sides of the lease. For renters, it means you have more power to negotiate and more time to find the right place. You're also seeing a huge increase in concessions, things like a month of free rent. But for landlords, it means they've got to work harder. They're facing way more competition, and they really need to focus on keeping their current tenants happy because finding a new one just got a whole lot tougher.
And you can see the proof right there in the market. Before the supply wave hit, landlords hardly ever had to offer deals. Now, with all this competition, the number of landlords offering incentives has just shot up. That's a direct result of the market shifting in your favor.
So, all of this sounds pretty great for renters, which leads us to the final and most critical question. Is this renter-friendly market actually the new normal?
Well, the short answer is no. You see, these supply waves are cyclical. The buildings that are opening right now, they were financed and started construction a couple of years ago.
back when economic conditions were totally different. Today, it's a lot harder for new projects to get funding, which means the pace of new construction is already starting to slow down. We are at the peak of this current wave, right here, right now.
And what that means is that this renter-friendly market we're in, it's a temporary window of opportunity. It's a special period where the supply of apartments has actually outpaced demand. But this window of having more choices and more negotiating power isn't going to stay open forever.
Ultimately, understanding these market dynamics is all about helping you make smarter decisions. The rental market is always moving, but it's not random. When you can recognize these supply waves, you can see when the power is shifting in your favor. And in a market that is constantly changing, the real key is knowing when to wait for a better deal and knowing when it's time to act.